And good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to We Believe Digital Newsbreak. We're broadcasting live from downtown Jackson, Mississippi. We're glad to have you join us today, and always glad to be in the We Believe Digital Studios, where we have some wonderful things going on here, commercials being cut, clips being made of different events out in the community, constantly adding content to our portfolio here. Young producers, dynamic, can-do attitude, bringing this broadcast to you today. So we're a little chilly down here, I think still in the 30s, trying to climb up to 50 today in Jackson. And we got all kinds of stories for you in this 30-minute broadcast. We'll take a little commercial break in a minute. And my name is Chris Young, coming to you solo today. And of course, the first thing out of the gate is this godforsaken House Bill 1020 moving forward in various iterations over at the state capitol. House Bill 1020, the original text of House Bill 1020 is 1,040 pages long. The revised text yesterday or the day before was 1,043 pages. And you know, it's interesting, as I started to read it, and still haven't completed it, but it really caused me to wonder how many of our legislators will take the time to read a bill that's 1,040 pages long. But essentially, what we're talking about is two different things. Number one is to expand the Capitol Complex Improvement District, which really got its start about 5 years ago, and was intended to be all about infrastructure. But that's changed over time, and so and with the advent of the Capitol Police Department within that, so. A Capitol Police Department within the boundaries of the city, 8.7 square miles carved out, all kinds of police being hired from other agencies, herding other agencies in order to prop up this specialized police force for this Capitol Complex Improvement District. And these Capitol Police have killed people here in Jackson in the last 6 to 8 months since they've stood up, and we haven't seen any accountability of that whatsoever. And so we're certainly keeping an eye on that. But HB 1020 is about expanding the Capitol Police, the Capitol Complex Improvement District, to South Jackson and West Jackson. Nope, just kidding about that. It's of course expanding to Northeast Jackson. And so you got to make sure you cover the Jackson Country Club in the Capitol Complex Improvement District. And so and not only will the Capitol Complex Improvement District expand under this bill, but also of course, the Capitol Police presence footprint will then expand with it. And also under this bill, these folks, the authors of the bill from far outside of Jackson, Mississippi, will seek to create a Capitol Complex Improvement District court system, usurping the power of the Hinds County court system. See, come to find out, shock of all shocks, that there's a lot of white Republican legislators in Mississippi that don't like having to answer to black judges, and they don't approve of black leadership at all. And so this is an attempt to quell that, and it's an attempt to quell the voters, because all these judges that would come in, these are judges that are going to be appointed, not elected. So hence the voice of the people gets thrown right out the window. So that's what we got going on live and in color up here at the Capitol in the city of Jackson, Mississippi, the capital city. If that isn't bad enough, what makes it even worse is that in this bill, you can find on page 22 of the bill that starting this August, if this bill were to pass, 18.758%, say that again, 18.758% of the allocation that Jackson, the supposedly fair and equitable distribution allocations that come from the state to the municipalities, Jackson would have 18.758% of their allocation sucked away to be Jackson's share of paying for this expansion of the Capitol Complex Improvement District. So we're gonna suck away your voting strength. We're gonna suck away the will of the people, and we're gonna suck away your funding. And as long as that's passed in the legislature, which we already know, the Democrats don't even have to show up because they're so outnumbered by the white Christian Republicans that's just the way it is. So, of course, that it's going to open up lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, and but that's the big talk going on right here now down in Jackson. Another dimension that's moving forward over there in the legislature today is the House Bill 1168. City of Jackson have a 1% sales tax that was approved by the voters in, is it 2014? And so now this bill, HB 1168, again, authored by somebody that don't live in Jackson, they don't live anywhere near Jackson. And yet the House voted yesterday in a vote 76-41. So a clear majority that henceforth, when this 1% sales tax revenue comes to the city of Jackson, intended to be using for the cost of repairs, upgrades, improvements to our overall infrastructure, if this bill passes, that money must be used exclusively for water system improvements, updates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's just levels of oppression going on from every angle. We really need people to speak out and show out and turn up these bright lights on the deeds that these white Christian Republicans are doing over there. A 1,040-page bill didn't get created over the weekend. This has been planned and planned and planned. And just when our water system gets on its knees, and thank God for the federal government suing the state of Mississippi for neglect, for not providing to help Jackson, for neglecting Jackson's the monies for Jackson infrastructure for decades, Department of Justice, EPA, suing the state of Mississippi for neglect of its own people. Think that one through for a second. And just when that's going on, and we do get relief from the federal government, that's when these folks want to show up with these bills, and when we're on our knees asking for help, pleading for help, getting relief direct to our city, bypassing the state itself. And those folks over there, they don't appreciate that. And hence you see these bills coming forward. So that's the top thing talking about today. Another story going on in Hinds County District Supervisor Robert Graham, District 1, going to be standing for re-election, and saying that one of his challengers Eva Chrysler, the wife of Hinds County Sheriff candidate Marshawn Chrysler, has residency issues in her application, so he wants them to disqualify her. Went to a town hall meeting down at Forest Hill High School a couple of nights ago, first night of Black History Month. About 100 people in attendance, a beautiful auditorium down there. The mayor was in rare form. He spoke for about 20 minutes, talked about this cumulative about $800 million showing up in Jackson to help with the water effort. Talked about the third-party water administrator, Ted Hannafin, and the plans that he's introducing. Talked about a model test that's being performed to really be able to truly assess where the strengths and where the weaknesses are in the overall system. Talked about South Jackson having a somewhat higher elevation than where the O.B. Curtis water plant is, and also them finding smaller pipes out there, and these two things contributing to, sort of like South Jackson being at the end of the line away from O.B. Curtis. So they're looking into all this, and the model test that's being created to assess all the strengths and weaknesses of the water system is being provided to us free of charge. Good stuff there. So, the mayor's looking forward to all that. He has a very positive impression of Ted Hannafin. He said until he shows me otherwise, he accepts him at face value. I think I told the listeners last week that Mr. Hannafin comes to us from Southeast Virginia. I lived in the same location for the last 35 years before I moved to Jackson, and I can assure you that you just never heard a bad word spoken about this guy. And he presided over a water sewage system up there in southeastern Virginia that has about 3 times as many connections as we have here in Jackson. So this guy knows what he's doing, and came to us via a stipulated order by federal judge Henry Wingate, and so we just have to see what goes on with that. I spoke to Mr. Hannafin last week over at the Robert Smith just a terrific guy, and I won't share every word of what was said, but I can tell you this: it's becoming he thought he had a good understanding. He told me when he came here, but his knowledge of what's really going on down here in Mississippi and Jackson with the legislation, the politics and everything. He said he's learning more and more each day, and he certainly wasn't smiling when he said that. So that's our first segment for you. Again, we thank you for joining us at We Believe Digital and We Believe Digital Newsbreak, and we're just going to dip out for a second for a couple of commercials, and we'll be right back with you.
Are you dreaming of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
And welcome back to Newsbreak. Chris Young, glad you're joining us. We're shifting more now from Jackson into and some of these bills being introduced at the Capitol to this big issue of Medicaid expansion in Mississippi. You know, we're one of, is it 10 states at this point that have refused to expand Medicaid, causing all kinds of problems. Hundreds of thousands of people go without basic health care insurance every year in Mississippi. We have the worst health outcomes anywhere in the country. It's horrible. To let politics stand in the way is just, it's unconscionable. Even more so when someone else is paying the lion's share of the bill. It's more immoral at that point when someone else would pick up the tab, the vast majority of the tab, and yet you still refuse to expand Medicaid. You know, House and Senate minority leaders were speaking out yesterday. You know, there was a poll taken by Mississippi Today that showed that a majority in both the House and Senate, so that's including a lot of Republicans. Now, this is what the answer in the poll, you know, not sure what their voting would be, but what they told Mississippi Today, 74% saying that they would that they would support expanding the postpartum coverage under Medicaid from 2 months up to 12 months. That would save lives in Mississippi. That would save mothers' lives in Mississippi every single year. And all these social issues, troubles that we have are just so compounded when you don't have parents in the home, but instead you have mothers in caskets. That just irrevocably changes the life of that family forever, you know. And so, and once again, the federal government is paying the vast majority of the tab. I think for the next 4 years, it would be something equating to 93% of the tab. For doing that, the federal government would pay. But still, these people balk. So anyway, a lot of them have told Mississippi Today they would support it, but that the leadership is not bringing it up so that they can ask questions. Now, again, I don't know if they will, how they will vote, but what they're telling Mississippi Today in advance is that they do support extending the postpartum coverage. And back to the overall Medicaid question, not just postpartum, but the overall. We have this former Ole Miss chancellor and UMMC vice chancellor, a guy by the name of Dr. Dan Jones, claiming yesterday or the day before that Tate Reeves had told him several years ago, you know, quote, "I recognize that it would be good for Mississippians, that would be good for our economy, good for health care if we expanded Medicaid." And the Dr. Dan Jones said, wow, you know, he was, I told him how happy he was to hear that. I think it was 2019. He was so happy to hear that from Governor Reeves, but then, you know, he shifted, or from Tate Reeves rather, but then Reeves shifted and said, quote, "Oh no, I'm not going to support it because it's not in my personal political interest." So when you think about that answer, you really start to understand what goes on in Mississippi. You have these people that are willing to stand up and exercise the will of the majority of voting Mississippians. And the majority, based on the people that they elect, that they put forward, the majority of voting Mississippians do not want Mississippi moving forward. They do not want Mississippi to grow. It's not their biggest burden in their mind that hospitals are closing, that mothers are dying, that children are killing children. that health outcomes are so pathetic, that no other state did worse than Mississippi in COVID. More COVID deaths per capita than anywhere else in America. So, but what the electorate, the voting majority in Mississippi is telling us when they put people like Reeves and Hoseman, who I'm learning more about every day, and this Speaker Gunn, ruling with an iron fist, not even bringing up Medicaid expansion for discussion. That's what it's really telling us. So if the majority voting population, people that cast that ballot in Mississippi, wanted something different, well, they would do that. They would insist on that, but they don't, because they're just stuck. And this is their Mississippi, and they're gonna act in a way that preserves that. One thing you learn when you come to Mississippi, nothing is more important than history in Mississippi, especially certain kinds of history, and the preservation of history. My goodness, multi-millions spent every single year preserving Mississippi history, including that which oppressed and continues to oppress, generations of people, of Mississippians. So it's a some days I call it the belly of the beast. We are sizzling in Mississippi. Mississippi is still burning, never really stopped. Some of the methods changed, but never really stopped. So one other story to share, shifting back to Memphis. It was so hard watching the funeral, Tyree Nichols' funeral. It was so hard for me personally to listen to his sisters. My gosh, I just couldn't stop crying sitting on the end of my couch at home. It was just very, very hard. I can't imagine, but another, and then yesterday up in Mississippi, some guy from Indianapolis, a guy by the name of Torrance Jackson Jr., got in different conflicts at a public library up there, and he was shot. He ended up being shot dead, and a Mississippi PD officer is in critical condition after him being shot inside the Poplar White Station Library on Poplar Drive up there in Memphis. So lot going on up there in Memphis. So those are the main stories that I wanted to share with you today. I didn't see any comments on the chat. We bring you this show on Wednesdays and Fridays at noon, a 30-minute show, trying to have guests on at least one time a week. I think our next guest is scheduled is David Archie. I believe he'll be with us this time next week, and try to bring people in and share perspectives and so forth. I know Representative Bo Brown has been rescheduled for a couple weeks from now. I'm waiting to hear back from our new Secretary of State candidate, Democrat Shuwaski Young, and I've provided him with a few dates that he could come in and join us. So that's what we're trying to do on Newsbreak, give you a combination, a rundown of, pertinent news stories that we see that people are very engaged in, and also give people a chance that are out there in the community trying to be leaders to let you know who they are, what they're about, and so forth. So that's what we're doing. So that's about it for today. We thank you for coming to We Believe Digital, supporting our platform. If you can like the show and share it with your friends, we're very grateful. If you're able to send us some stars, oh man, are we grateful to help defer, nothing to do with me, but just to help to defer the cost of the operation of the studio. So hope you have a great weekend out there, and be sure to stay safe. We'll see you next week.